Okay, this is going to be a review for the last test that you will be taking, practice test, before the real thing. So this was the museum passages, the 2018 release test. So again, there were several 2018 release tests. This was one of them. So you were to read more museums, skip admission, and passage 2, should museums offer free admission to everyone? So question 9, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger because it's really small on here. Question 9, and again, remember, I want you to highlight the questions and look through the questions before you ever read these passages, because it will help you to make sure you know what you're looking for as you're reading. Saves you time. So, which quotation from passage 1 supports the idea that museums have found ways to replace the money lost when they offer free admission? So, you have A, and she added, tourists are not price sensitive in the same way the local visitors are in paragraph 8. B, the Hammer Museum in LA was able to go free by getting 2 donors back to free admission for 4 years with a $2 million gift in paragraph 9. C, we're noticing a 25% increase in attendance since going free. That was in paragraph 10. And there's a new way to become a member. Instead of paying for it, guests tally 12 visits a year in paragraph 13. Now, remember, you had to provide a quotation from passage 1 that supports the idea that museums have found ways to replace the lost money when they offer free admission. So they're still getting their money. How are they getting their money? Which one of these does that? And the answer for this is B. This quotation explains the way that Hammer Museums was able to replace the money it lost by offering free admission. So, as I always tell you, to read the rationale for the one that you selected if it was incorrect, so you know why you got the answer wrong, because it's just as important to know that. So this one would explain how they got their money back. The Hammer Museum in LA was able to go free by getting 2 donors to back the free admission for 4 years with a $2 million donation. So pause it if you need to. We're going to move on for the video. Question 10 has a 2-parter. So again, you have to get A in order to get B. This question asked you the central idea of passage 1. So you're only looking at passage 1. What's the central idea? And then part B asked you to select 2 quotations that help develop the central idea in paragraph, or in part A, sorry. So what's the main idea of passage 1? Because we have to get A to get B, again, this is 2 points. We're going to look at the answer for that. So this was B. This states the central idea of the passage. B was, some museums are switching to free admission, while other museums are concerned about how such a move would impact their revenue. So in order to get part B, you had to have B as your answer. And the 2 options that would support that would be the first and second option. This quotation describes the trend of free museum admissions, which is a central idea in the passage. And then this quotation supports the idea that some museums are concerned about not being able to offer free admission, which is central to the passage. So the other ones would be incorrect. I'm going to let you pause this if it is incorrect so you can read it and discuss if you would like to in class, since I won't be here. Moving on for the video purposes, again, pause at any time. All right, now this tells you all the different possible wrong answers. You can earn a point if you get the part A, but you cannot earn a point if you get part B and not A. All right, question 11 is informational. This is what shift in the development of the author's ideas occurs between paragraphs 20 and 21 of passage 2. So this is when the author changes his mind. A shift in ideas would be a change in mind. So A, the author moves from describing how eliminating admission fees impacts museum visitors to examine how it impacts museum revenues, meaning money, what they make. B, the author moves from pointing out how eliminating admission fees has become a trend to detailing how the movement might be stopped. C, the author shifts from detailing the effects of eliminating admission fees. Or D, the author shifts from examining museums that have eliminated admission fees to discussing those that refuse to do so. All right. The answer for this one is D. This is the structural shift in the author's ideas that occurs between 20 and 21. So the shifts from examining museums that have eliminated admission fees to discussing those that refuse to do so. Okay, again, you can pause at any time. Question 12. We're looking specifically at paragraph 22. What connection does the author make between the status of a museum and the likelihood it will offer free admission? A, museums that charge high admission fees are unlikely to be located in tourist destinations. B, museums that are well-known destinations are likely to encourage other smaller institutions to offer free admission. C, museums that are well-known destinations are less likely to offer free admission because people are willing to pay to visit. Or D, museums in major cities like New York and Boston are more likely to offer free admission than those in smaller cities like Houston and Omaha. This one is C. This is the connection made by the author. So museums or well-known destinations are less likely to offer free admission because people will pay for it when they're on vacation. So pause this if you need to review why you missed one. Moving on to question 13. So this, again, only 1 point. You have to get both. Select 2 strategies that the author of passage 2 uses to advance his purpose. So we're going to scroll down and see. The 5th and 6th option. The author compares and contrasts throughout the passage, and the author quotes several experts and includes his own narration. So going back up to that, this was compare and contrast, and he incorporates quotations from the museum experts in his own decision. Pause if you need to. Now here's all the explanations of why 13 would get you so many points. Question 14 is an A and a B, so again, you must get A in order to get B. What does the word strata mean as it's used in paragraph 17? So we know we're looking right at paragraph 17. You need to read all of paragraph 17 again and look for context clues around that word. Is it A, descriptions, B, institutions, C, levels, or D, properties? And then for part B, you had to tell which phrase from that paragraph helps to determine the meaning. So you're looking for the clues. Which one is it? So the correct answer is C. This response is supported by the description of the different groups by the quotation in part B. And also for part B, this is B. The strata discussed in the passage are different segments of the city's population. So if you missed that, make sure you pause the screen right now to look at the different rationales. All right, scrolling past all the different explanations to the next one, and we are on question 15. This is also an A and a B. What claim does the author make in paragraph 20? So we've practiced claims a lot, and then for part B, you have to provide evidence the author uses to support that claim. So let's look at the claims. A, the Joslin Museum eliminated admission fees and has found new ways to make up revenue it has lost. B, the director of the Joslin Museum is uncertain of how eliminating admission fees will affect the revenue of the museum. C, the director of the Joslin Museum plans to expand museum cafes and gift shops to help the museum replace lost revenue. Or D, the Joslin Museum needs to replace the revenue it lost from admission fees by making items in the cafe and gift shop more expensive. This is A. This is the claim made in paragraph 20. So we go back up, we find the Joslin Museum eliminated admission fees and has found new ways to make up the revenue it has lost. And the backup for that would be B. The director states that the revenue from the cafe and gift shop has replaced the lost from admission fees. Pause this if you need to. Question 16, if we can get to it, past all these explanations. All right, now this you already did in class. Again, you do not have to write this essay, but this was the prompt that you would have reviewed. Should museums offer free admission to visitors? Again, the RoboGrader doesn't care of your opinion. Make sure you use the side that's easiest on the state test to argue. All right, all of these are the different responses that you can use to look through the essays. So we're going to scroll down to the next test if I can get to it. All right, so here we are. This is another portion that was released. These are questions 23 to 28. You had to read lakes and reservoirs. Okay. Every test is going to have science probably on it. So there's at least going to be some kind of science article on here that you have to read and complete questions to. So this one's lakes and reservoirs. And here are the questions. So this question has two parts. How does this author's word choice convey the purpose of the passage? So we're looking at word choices. A, the author uses technical and scientific language to present detailed information about lakes. B, the author uses lists to instruct readers how to maintain lakes and waterways. C, the author uses figurative language to distinguish facts and opinions about lakes. D, the author uses persuasion to convince people to use lakes more frequently. And then you must select two sentences that support that answer from part A. So let's look at the answer. It is A. Students should choose this option because the language is very technical and domain-specific in nature, which gives the impression that the passage is primarily informative. So pause this if you need to read your rationale. And the two that you should have checked with that would be the fourth and fifth options. This option uses science content words like overgrowth of algae and inflow to describe scientific processes, as well as the elements of phosphorus and nitrogen. And the fifth one was this option introduces and describes the scientific process. So pause if you need to. Going to the next one after we get past all the possible options. Question 24, 1 point. How does the author build on an idea about lakes that is first introduced in paragraphs 1 through 3? So find the main idea of paragraphs 1 through 3 and see how he builds on it. This is A, the author describes how environmental problems affect Great Lakes. B, the author indicates that although lakes are very different, they still share fundamental traits. C, the author suggests that despite the shrinking size of lakes, they will get deeper in the future. D, the author continues to provide details about and differences between saltwater and freshwater lakes. And this answer is B. Paragraphs 1 through 3 highlight the diversity of lakes, while the rest of the passage highlights characteristics common to lake ecosystems which are unique. So pause if you need to read the options here. Wait a minute. Okay, sorry, skip that one. 25. Select two sentences that show how a lake's characteristics are affected by its location. Now, as you are taking a test on the real test, these would light up. So it won't be like this. It will be like easy to click on. So as you scroll your mouse around, it will click on it. So you had to select two sentences from this paragraph. It's only worth 1 point. Again, don't waste your time on a 1 point question. Make a guess, move on with your life, go back to it if you need to. These are the options here. Most lakes contain fresh water and lakes formed by the erosive force of ancient glaciers. Both of those would be correct. So, and then they go through all the different sentences you could have selected. Question 26. We're looking at a specific paragraph and figuring out the purpose of just that paragraph. You can find it probably in the first few sentences of the paragraph, maybe the last. So, A, to offer context for environmental changes to lakes. B, to list examples of how animals benefit from lakes. C, to establish the impact of humans on lakes. Or D, to acknowledge physical features of the lakes. And this one is A. Paragraph 13 functions as an introduction to the list of details the author will provide about environmental impacts on lakes. Pause if you need to read your rationale. 27. Which word from paragraph 18, we know right where we're looking, helps the reader to determine the word fluctuations? So again, don't just use this, use the paragraph. Hardships, changes, periods, or withdrawals. The answer is B. Changes is synonymous with fluctuations in this context, but the word these also give a context clue. The word wide is also used to describe fluctuations and suggest a range, which also may be a context clue. So pause to read the rationale if you need to, but the answer was B, changes. I think we have one more. Yes. So a one pointer, and yet you still have to select 3. I hate these kinds of questions. Again, do your best. It's 1 point. Even though you're selecting 3, 1 point. Make a guess if you don't know all 3 and move on. You have at least a chance. So you had to select 3 sentences that would be included in a summary of a passage. Remember, summaries are broad information. If you see a very specific detail, it's probably not supposed to be in the summary. So the 3 that you should have selected were the first, third, and fifth options. Students should choose this option because it establishes a context for the entire passage. The third option, because it outlines which creatures rely on lakes and why. And the fifth option should be chosen because there are several problems that plague lakes as detailed in this passage. And then it goes through all the different answers, and I think we're at the end. I just want to make sure before I stop this video. We are. All right, so if you are done, make sure you look at the last slide of the week.